An end-of-year report card for Ireland then. A team that I saw as many times as my own side England this year. I saw Ireland play in the Six Nations against England. I saw them play twice in South Africa. And I saw them play against Australia to finish the year as well, with the final match of the international calendar 2024. But how does Andy Farrell's team stack up? How does the squad's performance stack up? What were their results and performances like? How much optimism should there be for next year? Where Andy Farrell, of course, is going to be focused on the British and Irish Lions and handing the team over to his assistant Simon Easterby for the foreseeable. So your thoughts down below, please. Let me know. I'm going to give Ireland a grade out of 10 at the end of the video. Please tell me what yours would be in the comments. Give the video a thumbs up. Helps me spread the channel. And subscribe as well. So, the results for Ireland. They won the Six Nations. Not quite able to get a Grand Slam. That defeat to England at Twickenham in the final moments robbed the Irish fans and players of another Grand Slam. Just goes to show how difficult it is to win one at all. And winning a Six Nations Championship is a massive achievement. But on those occasions where you do get a Grand Slam, they are very, very rare and very special indeed. That performance to kick things off against France in Marseille, a beatdown of France, was one of the most impressive performances from any international team in 2024. The trajectory, though, if you had to sort of draw a graph of Ireland's performance, I think that was their high point. No, actually, probably. You've got two peaks. You've got the win against France at the start of the Six Nations. You've got the win in Durban against South Africa. Two big peaks. But other than that, the trend, I think, in some respects, and I'll come on to the work-ons for Ireland, that some of the trends for them are going down a little bit. And one of the questions looking ahead is how much decline can they mitigate, and how much can they stay at the levels that they've been at for the last few years? It's going to be an interesting one to watch, isn't it? But 4 wins out of 5 in the Six Nations was enough to win them the tournament. 1-1 against South Africa in July. I had the best time watching those games. The Irish fans were fantastic. South African fans were amazing. My first trip to South Africa, what a country. But that was just an awesome series. Everything I hoped it would be. Except, I think myself included and everyone wanted the third game, a decider. But there we go. That's how it was. I have to save that for another day. With 3 wins in November, disappointing performance against New Zealand, and that home record at the Aviva Stadium in Dublin came to an end. But then 3 wins, which, well, the ones against Argentina and Australia, not totally convincing. So the overall return for Ireland, played 11, won 8. 73% record, which is decent. And with the silverware that they won, with the win away in South Africa, I think it's a fairly satisfying place to be, I would imagine. As for the squad, well, that man there, World Player of the Year nominee Caelan Doris, emerged as the captain and the leader, both on the team sheet, but also in his deeds on the pitch as well. He was absolutely immense this year, and they've got their leader for the next however many years. He has been brilliant. On and off the field, he's been great, and just a good temperament to be a captain, and he just commands respect of opponents, of referees, of his teammates, and he's been, most importantly, absolutely fantastic on the pitch. And there have been a lot of good performers. I think in the Six Nations, Jack Crowley was outstanding, but there are still nevertheless, and if you'd have had this conversation straight after the Six Nations and after those Ireland tests even, in some respects, the conversation was done. Who's taking on the Ireland 10 jersey from Johnny Sexton? Conversation done. It's Jack Crowley. However, Jack Crowley hasn't started this season as well, and Sam Prendergast has taken his opportunities when he's had them, and the conversation is back up in the air. Kieran Frawley was edging himself into that conversation as well after being the hero in Durban. So still, that's I guess a good place. You could say it's a confusing place, but it's a good place that Andy Farrell has left Simon Easterby in. He's going off to do the British and Irish Lions, but any one of Kieran Frawley, Jack Crowley, Sam Prendergast could be starting for Ireland against England in Dublin. And that is going to be one of the big question marks. I mean, it's a bit of a head scratcher. Who do you pick to start against England? There's still a bit of work to do to identify who the 10 is, but that's, I guess, because they've actually got several options. Other players have emerged this year. Gus McCarthy at hook has been a find. Kieran Frawley, as I already mentioned. Jamie Osborne in those South African games was absolutely brilliant. Craig Casey was really good when Jameson Gibson-Park was out. Sam Prendergast as well. And I think that's one of the features of the year for Ireland. There's been some of the big names, Jameson Gibson-Park, Mac Hansen, Bundy Aki was out in those South Africa games. Dan Sheehan's been out, Tyg Furlong. It's left a bit of a vacuum, and some players have stepped up and filled that void, which stands Ireland in good stead going forward. There are, in terms of an age profile, they needed that as well, because the squad is getting older and feeling in some positions a little bit long in the tooth. And when you look at players like Josh van der Fleer, who's been absolutely brilliant, who is the next best open side flanker for Ireland? Not totally sure. There was a period where Peter O'Mahony used to slot in at 7 when Van der Fleer couldn't be there. There was periods where Caelan Doris would step in at 7 when Van der Fleer couldn't be there. I don't know who that guy is that's going to take over from him. And these are some of the questions that Ireland have got to answer. And 2025 is quite a good year to do that. Because it's British and Irish Lions, they'll be playing against some Tier 2 nations in July. Quite a good time to establish, get this Six Nations done, try and win another Grand Slam or Championship at least. And Ireland are well placed to do that, as I'll come on to. But then guys like Isachukwu and Prendergast and who else? Harry Sheridan even. And, well, both Prendergasts I'm referring to there. Clarkson. Give some of these options a little bit more time and try a few more out as well, so you can see who can sink or swim. So I think 2025 is going to be steady for the Six Nations, and then it's about changing the face of that Ireland team, which I think come next November, it will look quite different in some respects. Work-ons for Ireland, I've got 4 of them. Attack, firstly. I mentioned that the trajectory for this Ireland team was kind of downwards a little bit, despite those little peaks at the start and in the middle of the year. General trend downwards. I don't know if you agree with that. Part of that, I think, is the attack hasn't fired. Now, Mike Catt has gone and the attack hasn't looked as fluid. It would be very easy and simple to say, well, that's a cause and effect. Mike Catt gone, attack not looking so good. Maybe that is the case. But I actually think point number 2 could solve point number 2 and point number 1. I think maybe the reason the attack's been really poor is because the line-out's been really poor. And it's been a consistent trend, particularly more and more towards the end of this year, those November tests. The line-out has not been good. And when you think back to the great Ireland attack that we were all marvelling over a couple of years ago, those lovely shapes that they had in midfield, a massive amount of that was built from a line-out platform. And it just has not been there. And the attack, I think, is the attack being poorer is a direct reaction to the line-out being worse. So sort that out. And I think you go a long way to sorting out their issues. Now, what's interesting is I was thinking that's just Paul O'Connell, maybe. Maybe they need to change Paul O'Connell as the Ireland line-out coach or forwards coach. But it's an issue with Leinster as well. So maybe it's just that some of the guys that are involved in both, Kelleher, McCarthy, Ryan, I don't exactly know. I'm not professing to have the answers. What I do know is it is a problem that needs to be solved and fast. So does some of the changing of the guard of their players. Who are the props that are going to take over from Andrew Porter? If he gets a long-term injury, what do Ireland do? I mean, Cian Healy, legend, but they need to move on from him now. And same goes on the tight head side. There are young guys, Milne and what's the other? Boyle. Milne and Boyle at Leinster. Tight head prop side. Clarkson is coming through. They've got guys there, but they're not like-for-like changes at the minute, and Ireland need to get there. And the same goes with back row. Peter O'Mahony, what an absolute hero. But it's Isachukwu time, it's Prendergast time, it's Timoney time. And so some of those guys, and particularly that 7 jersey, some of those questions need answers. Those would be the work-ons. And looking ahead to 2025, Ireland are probably best placed, I would say, to get a Grand Slam. I've already mentioned how difficult it is to get a Grand Slam. That's why it happens very, very rarely. To win 5 matches with the home and away element of it makes it very, very hard in such a sort of short space of time. However, they start at home to England and they play at home against France as well. Being at home for those 2 matches is huge, which makes the banana skin, if they do get past England, Scotland away is a banana skin with the way Scotland are playing. And Wales and Italy, even away, I would expect Ireland to win. Although it's not a guarantee in the case of Italy. Home to France, that game is going to be huge. I might see if I can try and get to Dublin for that one. Because of all the games in 2025, that's right up there with some of the best. And then in the summer, as I've mentioned, they're going to play Tier 2 teams, all to be confirmed. But I believe they've agreed to play Portugal, and Georgia and Romania is apparently on the cards. That will be great, and that is an opportunity for some of these younger guys to come through and get some experience and be tested in an international environment. Overall, score out of 10, what would you give Ireland? I've gone for 8. A 1-1 series draw against South Africa in South Africa, the backyard of the world champions, and a Six Nations Championship. It's pretty spot on. The reason it drops down from, say, a 9 to an 8 is because of how November went. The loss to New Zealand was a poor performance and really disappointing. And then the wins against Australia and Argentina, good wins, but stuttered a little bit and things weren't perfect. And so taking that whole November as a block just nudges Ireland down to an 8. But overall, more silverware, more wins, still in the top 2 in the world, and looking pretty good for 2025. Without that man, Andy Farrell, let's see how they get on. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Give the video a thumbs up, hit subscribe. I'll see you on the next one. I'm going through these, by the way, alphabetically through the top teams at Ireland, and the rest are coming in the channel soon.